Johnstown started at that road that goes west. This was part of Thomas's original place, clear past the Idaho border. And Letitia John married William H. Gibbs. And so Grandpa gifted parts of land to each one of the kids. And this was what he gave to Letitia. This and over to the end of this field. Let's go down here and I'll show you the spots of Thomas's original house. This is the first cabin.
The first one that Thomas built?
Mm-hmm. We're getting ready to do some really heavy work on it to bring it back because it had the old rock foundations, and after a few years they start to move and crumble. So we're going to restore that. This was also the first schoolhouse in Portage. Thomas said that he was not going to raise a bunch of illiterate kids. So after he finished living in this, then Henry lived in it for a year or so, and he built a cabin of his own. And Thomas manned the schoolhouse for a few years, and then he turned it over to Henry to teach.
So where did Thomas go when he moved from here?
Okay.
That's where we're headed now?
He moved a long ways away, right over here. He built a cabin right in this area.
And this is where he lived till he passed away, huh?
I think so. He built a log cabin, it's a pretty good sized one, immediately when they moved out of that. And then a few years later he added a brick addition to it with an upstairs. And there's still a few bricks scattered around out here. Well, you can kind of see the row of bushes. That was on the east side of the house. And this row here was on the west side of the house. And the house faced to the south. They had a cistern that they stored water in, and that was right over here. Right here was their cistern for water. You can see all the rock foundation piled around there. And they got their water from a ditch from the canyons, and in the fall of the year they'd make sure this was good and full so they had enough water to go through the winter. And the house went this way with the door facing south. But he willed that to his daughter Rebecca, and she was married to John Howell. And it was them that lived in it when the house burned down.
Oh, the house burned down here.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the brick home?
The addition on it was brick, and it was a 2-story addition.
Okay.
And
When I was just a little boy, we was up in the cemetery, and I had an aunt point down, and you could still see the part of the building anyway.
yeah, we've cleaned a lot of stuff out of here, but and the cabin behind you there, that belonged to Jane Green John.
Okay.
It was Thomas's second wife. And that cabin used to sit out in the middle of that field. He had a house for her and a house for Margaret. And they didn't live in the same house. But there was
a barn up there.
Yeah, that was one that John Howell built, that old wooden one. And we've added on to the north side of it and have a helicopter in there that will get up running before long. So, and then everything that you saw on this side of the road, from here to the last road to the west in Portage, was John family that owned it.
Owned Ferndale.
Back this way.
and back this way too. Just this side of the border, on this side of the road, there was just a little, about 40 or 50 acres there that some McCrary people owned, and Hans Knutson. And then across the road, William John owned from the 8400 west, or this road, from there clear
How
up
about
to
James?
the mountain. Greens?
James.
Oh, James?
Yeah.
James lived right straight above here, just under the mountain. We have a pivot irrigation system on that now. So we were able to purchase that, and so we've improved it, and it really does pretty good job, produces some good crops. So they had 160 acres there, and when Jimmy and Vernie split up, Vern took the north half of it, Jimmy took the south half, and so we purchased it back. We ended up with Jimmy's part of it first. And then a few years later, they wanted to get rid of the north part, so we got that. So we've got a good share of the old homestead of our grandparents back. The road, right across the road, right there, was owned originally by Henry John, and that was my grandfather. And he gave that land from this road to the river to his daughter Bertha, and she married a Roderick. So that would be shown on the plat maps as Isaac Roderick, but it was a gift from my grandfather to them. And then Henry owned that side of the road, clear from the Idaho border to that red brick house back there. It was considered a wasteland because it had some alkali and didn't raise very good crops. So after they irrigated it a few years, it washed the alkali out. And now it raises darn good crops. So, but we moved that off. Grandpa Thomas also drilled a well for her so that she had well water over there with the cabin. And this looks like it's about ready to fall down, but
Now Henry Edgar, James' boy, is that the land he owned up there that was James?
yeah, James Everett.
And Henry Edgar, it was Jimmy and Bernie's dad. Vernal. Yeah, that's right. And then Vernie owned also about 40 acres back on the east side of the road where the house burned down. Yeah.
And
See, that's where I lived when I was.
you lived there too?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, all right. This old wooden barn, James Howell built, and needs some restoration really bad. And we're debating whether to tear it down or restore it. So I'd take you in that cabin, but I'm not sure it's safe right now.
Hey, Denton, the history says that the cabin, the first log cabin, was north of the brick house. Is that true?
There was, yeah. I don't think it was. I don't think it was there. There used to be a house just this side of the one that's over there, on this side of the road, and that was one that Parley had built, and that was Henry's oldest son, and so Asel John and his and Doug's grandparents owned this after DeMoor. John bought this after he bought it from Parley, and then he bought a bunch of land that went clear to the river also from him. But there used to be a red brick granary up on the north side of this field, and it was falling apart. The way the kids are around here, you never know what they're going to do. So we took it down rather than have somebody get hurt and live in prison the rest of our lives. And this house that was over here probably was an original cabin, but it had been enlarged, and it had green siding on it. And DeMoor lived in that and dug all the basement and stuff out from under it. And it got pretty dangerous too, so we just put a match to it. It wasn't
You
salvage.
burned it down?
Pardon?
You burned it down?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't safe. We didn't have big enough equipment to go in then and, mash it and spread it out. The equipment just wasn't big enough. You would have hurt somebody trying to take it down. So we just burned it down. And back, do any of you remember on the Gibbs pictures back there where they had the big 2-story white house with the side porches on 2 sides of it? You remember seeing that? Well, that was clear back where that hayfield started on this side of the road. We burned that one down too, because the kids would get upstairs in it with ropes, and the windows were all gone out of it. And they'd tie a rope up somewhere on the roof, and then they'd go out one window and swing around and in through another one. And so I'm sure the kids weren't very happy with that. But there were some old chicken coops and some other stuff that was there too. And then the Gibbs had also built a windbreak of fairly tall trees on the north side of the house. And we took those down so we could irrigate it. But that old house, that old white house, was a cold son of a gun in wintertime. It wasn't one I'd want to live in. So, okay, any questions?
I just wondered where Levi's.
Pardon?
Where Levi's was. Everything I've been able to see was like right up that way, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a book over here, and I'll show you the map of it.
Okay.
So this book has not been copyrighted, but it took from 1855 to 1995.
Oh.
And Laverne John used to be superintendent of schools in Ogden, and he was the one that compiled it and put it all together. And then James John, Jimmy's brother, or not Vernie's brother, James, I think we all called him Jimmy. he's the one that placed all the stuff on the map as he remembered it. And I've looked a lot of it up, and he's pretty on spot with it. So, one of these years, maybe we'll, when our helicopter is going, maybe we'll give some helicopter rides for a reunion or something.
I love that idea.
They're fun to ride.
Yeah, they are.
You don't even feel it lifting off the ground. You just feel it going forward a little bit. You're up. These are old lilac bushes and wild roses from those days too.
I have some of these same roses in my yard.
Do you? Well, I tell you, they spread fast, don't
They
they?
do, yeah.
Yeah, they're and they hurt when you grab them.
They do that too.
This is a rough map, but this is really the way it was back then. This is the Utah-Idaho border, this fence right here. And so Levi John and then William John from there south. And on the Idaho side of the border was William John and David John and Lorenzo Hoskins. He married one of the John girls, and they owned the land up in the mouth of North Canyon.
So is this canyon here, North Canyon, then, Dan?
North Canyon is the one right over here.
Oh, it's this one over here,
This is middle.
Middle Canyon. Okay. So the one over by the cemeteries.
That's
south
Portage.
That's
Portage
Portage
Canyon.
Canyon. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got this book. If you want to come closer, he'll show you again where we're standing in relationship to the map.
Okay.
We've already looked, so you guys take a turn to look.
Okay. This is the Idaho border, this fence right here. So on the north side of the fence, from where we've just come up the road, William John owned this. And then up a little further, David John and Ora John owned that. And then a little further to the west and to the north, a guy named Lorenzo Hoskins owned that.
And Irene.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then on this side of the road, down on the corner, a guy named Brigham Green owned this little chunk in here. After this chunk, everything from there south was Johnstown. Levi John would have been up in this area, right in here, just on the south side of this road.
Okay, Brigham Green was brother-in-law of Levi.
Yeah. Yep.
So Denton, where do you live? Where's your home?
Right up there.
This is your
That's yours with the green roof
Yep.
and the silos.
Yep.
Okay, and then these houses here along this strip, did you guys once all own that?
We used to.
And you slowly sold it off?
I didn't. I wouldn't have sold
Get a
it.
picture of that.
Oh, sure.
So you mentioned to me that you came back in the 90s. You owned land during all that time you were away, but you then kind of inherited family land as people moved?
I've never inherited anything.
You were charged for every piece, huh?
Except a gold watch.
Wow.
The violin.
So it really wasn't passed down from your dad to you?
No.
No.
I bought every acre that we owned.
Wow. And you were one of how many sons?
I'm one of 13 kids.
Oh. So
7 girls and 6 boys.
And so before you
That's the
came
road we
back
just
here
drove
to
on
live
and
full
returned
time,
going
what was
back.
your profession?
I'm a dentist,
So Henry-
but I'm
Oh,
also a
that's where we
board,
stopped.
board certified anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
And you worked where?
I work at Eaton Hospital in California,
Is that
Castro Valley,
Sandy's
California,
over there?
the largest hospital in the East Bay.
But you were born and raised in Portage?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
He was my dentist up in Malad for a year or two.
Oh, wow. And then your dad was born and raised here.
Yes.
Wow, that is a really strong.
Yeah.
I don't know,
And-
but I had some good conversations with you.
Pardon?
I was a certified forensic photographer and did a lot of autopsy photographies.
Yeah. I used to, I liked anatomy in dental school. And sometimes I'd go over to Barnes Hospital across the street and I would do autopsies. Forensic guys love to have us come. After a couple of times, they'd see us coming and they'd say, hurry up, we're ready to go. You know what you're doing, we'll watch. And if you do anything wrong, we'll tell you. So I did a lot of them. And then,
Well, you know, I was telling you about my dad when his mother walked out on him.
Mhm.
It was Uncle Ren and Aunt Irene that right up there that took care of him because he was just a little guy while
Mhm.
his dad and brother was out on the farm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this was all, this, this all up through here was James John on this side of the
Middle
road.
Canyon.
Yeah. And Thomas was this.
So tell us your lineage back to Thomas. So your father's name is
Noah James John,
Noah James John, and your grandfather is
Henry John,
Henry John, and Henry was,
Thomas's son.
which number child was Henry?
Pardon?
He was the last son.
Yeah,
Wow, that's really close.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
I-
everyone wanted to know, that's how close Denton is to Thomas.
yeah.
That's about where I am.
Where did Denton's sons live?
Denton, where do your sons
My
live?
great grandfather.
You have two here in town?
Yeah. My son Bob is with me on the ranch here.
And is there two houses up there or just one?
Just one.
Okay.
And then he lives in town just a block south of the four-way stop.
Okay.
And then Chris lives just down on the road here, half a mile south or so.
Yeah, I saw
Pardon?
a mailbox with John written on
Yeah.
it. Is that his?
That's it.
Okay.
And then my other two boys, one of them lives in Wyoming, Rock Springs,
Okay.
the electrical engineer for Halliburton. And Todd was a drug addict, and he's been clean for 3 years now. And
He lives where?
in Salt Lake.
Oh, in Salt Lake. Very good.
Yeah.
And you had daughters?
Nope,
Just 4 boys.
4 boys.
4 boys. Oh.
Hey, Denton, just up this road is North Canyon,
Middle Canyon.
Middle
This is
Canyon,
middle.
and right up this canyon is this the ranch that used to run sheep on?
Yeah, Henry owned clear up to the Clark's place, up pretty close to the divide, both sides of the road. And he built his wife a summer cabin up there, and it was very nice. Had porches where she could sit out and enjoy the weather and the wind, and the road or the spring to the south of it. He put a little shelter over that so she could milk the cows and make cheese and all those things you make with milk. And she'd go down to town every Saturday and sell stuff. And then in the wintertime, she lived down here.
I have a question. My mom said that her grandfather, Brigham, had a cabin in the canyon, and they brought it down and built and put it in Portage. Would they have brought it down this canyon?
Yes. I can show you where it was. See up on the bend above my house, those tall trees up there? It was just on this side of it. And there's a ditch that runs through those trees. And
That's where they would have brought it from?
mm-hmm.
Probably.
Yep.
So there's trees up on the hill above your roof?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Now, they had also mentioned that there was a water hole up there that you would pipe the water down. Was that this canyon?
Mm-hmm.
And is it still piped from there?
Well, it's piped part way. Where we piped most of the water was North Canyon.
Okay.
And that's because the ground up there was so gravelly that by the time it got down to here,
You lost
there's
it.
no water.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but there's a good stream of water there.
But do you irrigate off it, or was it your drinking water?
They use it as drinking water.
Even now or back then?
No, back then.
Okay, okay.
But right up here, just on the west side of this little hill, David John had a cabin up there it's just this side of the ditch. But up there, a couple hundred feet above that, he had a cistern that they run the water in and from the ditch. And that's where they got their drinking water and bathing and all that stuff.
Only for selfish purposes, do I want to know this? Is there a water hole that you used to swim in? Because all teenagers have to swim somewhere.
River.
River? Where river from here?
That river.
Malad
That's
River.
where you would go, and that was the teenage swimming spot, huh?
Yep.
And
We-
do kids still swim there?
No.
Really?
No, they had a young guy that,
Oh, no.
Willie Gibbs was his name.
Okay.
And a bunch of the kids were down there swimming one day.
Okay.
And the bottom of the river had a crack in it. He got his foot caught in the crack and drowned. And so, yeah, that's where I learned to swim.
Really?
We had a diving board just a little bit north of the road on one of those big bends. And you could dive off of that. They took an old Model A frame, buried it back in the dirt.
Okay.
And put a couple of big heavy planks up over it and back over the springs
For your diving?
and back under the ground.
Okay.
And so you could bounce on that and it would throw you out in there. You could dive pretty darn good.
So was Willie your age? Was that in your teenage years that happened?
Pardon?
Was
When
he
did
your,
Willie?
Yeah.
he was your age?
No, this was before my time.
Oh, so you guys still swam there, but then it kind of lost.
We did a lot of things maybe we shouldn't have.
Right.
Kids still do.
I can relate to that.
I know, I want to see that diving board.
It's gone now.
Wow, that would have been the sight to see.
No, the county came in and changed the course of the river.
Oh.
So it was the bend that the river on the north side of the bridge came and turned north and went up in a horseshoe shape
Sure.
and come back and then under the road. And the county, with all of their intelligence, stopped the river right here where it had gone north and cut a road through, so it goes straight under the bridge
Wow.
now. So it's just a mosquito trap there now.
Sure, sure.
So it was a good life.
Wow, that's nice.
My dad claimed he and his brother used to tie barrel slats onto their feet and ski when they were kids. I don't know where they did it, whether it was here in Portage or over in Woodruff.
Yeah, there's another place that it could have been too, and that was the old Beaton Springs,
Okay.
just 3 or 4 miles straight north.
And is it still a swimming hole or it's not? No one knows about it. It's on private property.
Well, the river is pretty dirty. And there aren't very many people that want to swim. But there are hot springs that come up in the middle of the river, just past the little mountain that you can see that ends up out in the valley up there. And there's a canal, the canal that they built from Samaria in 1903. They dug that thing 13 miles long, clear to Washakie by horses and hand.
Some sort of dredge.
Yep. And then they had a single spike that they could get down in the ground, and the horses would pull it and tear up the dirt, so they could then scoop it out with those scoop that's pulled with horses. So they deserved that 13-mile trip when they got it done.
Wow.
And we still irrigate out of it. So, but that was fresh water. It was not polluted like the Malad River is. The only guys that ever polluted it were the guy that was president of the Samaria Irrigation Company, and he'd throw dead chickens in it to flow it.
Oh, no. Oh, that's terrible.
You know how the river got its name, right?
No, I don't know how the river got its name.
The French explorers came through here and ate some animals, and the animals had been poisoned, but they decided it was from the river, so they named it the Malad River, like Malady.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a French name. It means dirty river.
Really? I thought all rivers were dirty. I mean swampy, in terms of...
No, that Malad one, this is a mineral spring up there where it comes around the hill. And that's, they tried to develop a resort on it, Glen Price, and it wouldn't fly. Too many mosquitoes.
Lots of problems.
And ducks and geese.
All right.
So, yeah.
Did you have another spot you were going to show us?
Yep,
Okay.
I do.
All right, perfect.
One more stop. I'll go clear to the red gates on the corner.
Red gates on the corner.
And from there you'll be able to see those trees a lot better.
Oh, perfect.
If you wanted to go up around the corner, I could take you up past those trees, let you see what they, what Brig had up there.
I would like to.
I have a question about my grandfather Charles. He talks about he was running sheep. They went up. They would go up and spend the summers in one of these canyons.
There used to be a lot of sheep that ran all of this range on the west side here, and Keller's, one of the biggest sheep producers in Utah for many years, owned a lot of land down through there. And there was a guy named Del Adams that in 1939 tried to keep the Portage people from using the water out of Portage Canyon. He said it belonged to him and his sheep. And that ended up in a Supreme Court battle in Washington, D.C. And Portage people won.
Wow.
They had claims on it before the sheep did.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so, and we still have stray sheep up on my place here once in a while.
Really?
There's 5 of them up there right now. And they haven't been sheared for a couple of years, and they're sure woolly. but Jimmy and Bernie's place would be about a half mile straight south here. And between there and the mountain. And William had tons of land up this road on the Idaho side. And so
So did Charles have some land too? I know he had his wife, and they each had their own house.
what's that?
Charles?
Where was it?
Charles had 3 wives.
Right.
And the Freds got after him so hard around 1900s that he couldn't keep it from them. And so the younger 2 of the Williams sisters that he had married got him and the older sister and sat him down and said, look, you've got us arranged for financially just fine. We can take care of ourselves, and you can take, they called her Mom because she was the oldest sister. You can take Mom and go get out of this country where no one knows you, and we'll stay here and we'll take care of things here. So he did. And the 2 girls, the younger ones, moved over to Lava Hot Springs. They were there for a while, and there's several of them buried in the Lava Hot Springs Cemetery. But some of the kids from those 2 ladies left Lava Hot Springs when they were old enough, and they went all over the place. One of them, named Steve John, called me from Eugene, Oregon about a year ago, and he told me that he said my dad and my grandfather never told me anything about where I came from.
Wow.
And he said some lady missionaries came by the house, and he said I told them where I knew that I'd grown up for at least a few years, and said after that I've been in San Francisco and Alaska, all over the place. And he said, they told me about the genealogy program, so I went over to the church and they helped me get on the computer, and he said, I found your name still living in Portage, so I thought maybe you'd know a little bit about it.
Well, they called the right man.
So he told me that, he asked me if I had any idea what his background would be. And I told him that if his dad and granddad had been raised over at least part of the time in Lava, that he'd be Charles John's lineage. And he called me back a week or so later and said, you're right, that's how I hooked up.
Wow.
But he's been baptized now, and his wife has, and he's working on his boys.
Wow.
So then another lady called me. They lived down in south of Salt Lake, one of those suburbs. So, and she said, I am a John. I'm originally from around Phoenix. And she said, I don't know much about my lineage, but I am LDS and I've been active. And said, I met the love of my life when I was 39 years old, and he blessed me with a baby boy. She said, we were married in the temple. She said, I've got a baby boy now, he's 14 years old. So I told her about the reunion, and she said, So if I can possibly break away, I'm going to be there next June. And I said, well, love to see you there. And she wanted to know if they could come up and look at the old violin. I told them, sure, come on up. So they were on their way back from Logan from delivering the daughter, and they came up and they were really impressed with the workmanship on that old violin. The old case, is how they'd cut the grooves out to make the curve around the ends, and it had an old goat skin that had been tanned. That was the violin laid on, and so they came and saw it, and I was hoping that she'd be here today. I'm kind of disappointed, but the one from Steve John from Oregon, his wife had been having some pretty bad medical problems, and so that may be why he wasn't able to make it. But he said, the last time I talked to him, he said, now that I'm a member of the church, I hope they can find me worthy so that I can serve a mission. So
She wants to know where Lemon Mountain is.
That one right over there.
The pointy one?
Uh-huh.
The pointy one.
If you look at it from the east side of the valley, it looks just like a lemon on the end.
Got another question. The school down there that we looked at, did that have all the grades or just the youngest ones?
You mean the old schoolhouse where the town hall is now?
Or are you talking about the cabin down here?
Yeah.
Oh, they had everything in there. You know, when I was growing up, we had a school where the fire station is now. And it was a brick building, and they had 4 schoolrooms in it, and three classes in 2 of them, and 1 in another room, so that you can go through the 8th grade there. But then you went to Bear River High School to school. But I was talking one time to an old classmate, and he said, well, all you kids that came from that Portage school should really were ahead of us. And I said, well, we heard all the lessons 3 times in the 1st grade for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We heard all the 2nd grade ones 3 times, and the 3rd grade ones 3 times. So we should have had it pretty well down by then.
Did you know where Brigham had his house up here, his cabin?
Yes, I do.
Up on the mountain?
It was, well, I know where my grandfather Henry built a cabin up, we called it the Cabin Springs. He built a nice cabin for her up there. And so she and the oldest daughter and Brigham would be up there in the summer, and they would tend the milk cows, milk them a couple times a day, and make cheese and stuff, and she'd bring it down town and sell it on Saturdays to help make ends meet. And that cabin had been torn down by the people who own it. Now it was well enough built that they moved it up onto the Malad divide between Malad and Downey, and it's back up. So, but the other one that Brigg had after he married, what was her name?
Letha?
Letha. Yeah, that was right up just under those trees on the corner.
My mother took me there. We went up this road, and we went up the mountain a little ways, and it was a
Windy
road.
Yep.
And we went around the corner this way, and my mother said right off to the south here was where Brigham had his cabin.
It is.
And they brought it down on poles.
Set it up on the corner.
Yeah. They pulled it with a team of, I think he said horses. But
yeah, in fact, they used to have an apple tree up there where his cabin was, and that finally died. But yeah, it just died a year or two ago.
But you can get up there from here?
Yeah.
You can drive up that way?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a rough road, but it's not all that far.
Yeah, it wasn't all that far up there, but it was on the mountain.
Yep.
Okay. We'll go see. I remember, you know, that she's been gone since '92, so. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, she was a Landon, wasn't she?
Thank you for all the information.
She was a Landon originally. Yeah, I knew her.
Did you know Melvin Gibbs?
Yep.
Yep. Aunt Lizzie's Melvin, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. They had a lot of Gibbses in Portage.
Yes.
Yep.
There's still quite a few of them.
Thank you again.
Just about where my house is where Charles' homestead was.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And I don't know where we stopped down there, coming this direction the first time. That would be the bottom of what.
See the fence right there?
Uh-huh. Yeah. This side of that fence would have been Charles. And so he had this and quite a bit up the canyon here a ways and over to James's farm.
So when you moved back into town, who still owned this?
This was owned at that time by James Darley.
Okay. Who had bought it from your dad?
No, he bought it from I'm not sure. I'd have to go back through the abstracts.
Okay, I just wondered.
But before that, I think he bought it from one of the Johns. So I think it was your
Charles.
Charles.
So this Charles homesteaded down there.
Mm-hmm.
All of this was his.
Yeah.
And now all of it, you own all of it.
Well,
So anything
pretty
we
much.
can see, you own?
Minus Idaho.
Except for the houses down there.
No, is that true? Do you own down to the road, the main road?
On the south side.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this side.
All you know where we stopped coming up the road?
Right.
There's a little 50 acres down there that I don't own.
Oh, okay.
Everything else this way, both sides of the road we own.
And so technically this isn't Portage, is it, or is it the county? Is it
This
kind of like
is-
that, you kind of live in the county and in the city?
I live in the county.
Okay.
The city limits end at the Idaho border
Okay.
down on the north side
very
road. And there used to be,
Map, it'll show Goes back a big strip up this way and a big strip down that way, and then we'll go right around Portage itself.
Yeah, the city claims 500 feet on each side of the
Oh,
road.
right. I got it.
And they did that so that they could tax the farmers more.
Oh. I was gonna thought it was for nice reasons, in case they ever wanted to upgrade the road.
Yeah. No.
So that they were the ones paying to take
But-
out the ditches.
This little spot right over here on this water ditch, that was where David John lived. And they owned this over about halfway to the mountain. And then Ren Hoskins owned from there over. Ren was married to one of the John girls. So and then they went up the canyon, North Canyon also.
Where can you get a copy of this
Yeah,
book?
everybody's asking. Who was the author?
This was compiled by Laverde John and his wife. She was Flora Hall.
Could I see that just one moment?
Community of Portage. I'll look on the internet and see.
Laverde was a very well-educated guy. He was superintendent of schools for Ogden for years and years.
To 1995.
Played one of the meanest trumpets you'd ever hear.
I'll look and see if we can find it.
Grandma and Grandpa might be in there. Thank you.
Which grandma?
Brigham and Letha.
Let's look.
This is the one who was across now. Is that her book, John's?
Yeah, I think. Isn't it? All John's in there?
No, the Johns are kind of shortchanged in here.
Oh.
Yeah, there's not very much of them. It's my dad and mother.
That's your dad?
That's my dad and mother. And this is Arthur. That was my dad's younger brother. He died pretty young. And it's Henry Edgar and Nellie Bewick. This was Parley. This was Henry's oldest boy. And he was married to, he wasn't a polygamist, but he lost one woman and went on a mission, came back, married another one.
Was that Parley?
Yeah.
That's the one we were talking about at lunch.
And then she died, and then he married, the last one was named Annie. So, had children by all of them, but just a matter of the luck of the draw. But yeah, they're not. I was disappointed, but I know that Laverde did this just because he didn't want to make it look like it was just the John family being hogs. But they really were the making of this. And Thomas was the first man to sow a kernel of wheat in the Malad Valley. So, and him and my grandfather, Henry, had a little go around about that, because when they would plant, Thomas would pray and dedicate the ground for a crop. And very religious about it. But he did that, and he was ready to throw the first handful of wheat, and Henry reached in his bag, grabbed the bag, threw it out. And Henry looked up at his dad and said, I was the first guy in Moab Valley to sow wheat.
Did you ever know anybody's last name of Horrell?
Who?
Horrell?
Horrell? Harold?
Horrell.
Or H-O-R-R-O?
Horrell.
Yeah.
Horrell.
Horral. I just wondered, my sister-in-law married a guy who claims they were from Portage, and I have never heard my grandma use that or say that name.
I've never heard of that either. There were a lot of other people here at one time at the turn of the century. There was Harrison Booth, J.F. Conley, Mrs. Booth, Charles Hall, Hale McCreary, John Heaton, Don McCreary.
I don't see any of them on there either.
James Green, John Moss, Fred McCreary. So then on the east side of the valley, there was Reed Nelson, Joseph Nelson, and they owned right straight from here over where all those trees are. That was called the Oregon Springs back then. And then down closer to the lane across the valley from Portage, there used to be just off the left side on the corner here, there used to be Vern Jorgensen had sagebrush dance hall. And then Farrell McCreary owned a service station that was right on the corner.
Yeah.
And then on the south side of the road, Will John, again, had land there on both sides of the road. And we own this now also. But, yeah, Tommy Timms, we used to call that tall peak over there Timms Peak. And the Forest Service now calls it Gunsight Peak.
Oh.
And then Lorenzo Knutson. And the famous Washakie polygamists, Kingstons, they...
Did you know a lot of the Washakie Indians?
Yeah, I did. Went to high school with them. Yep. Neiman's, Pubachees. In fact, I have a pair of moccasins that Amy Timberberg made for me.
We have a vest and boots, moccasins and gloves that the Washakie Indians made for Brigham, for my dad.
Yep. They used to be, they were scary to a lot of people.
My aunt said they used to scare her all the time. She was afraid to go out of the house because this one had a crush on her. And he used to ride his pony right up into the yard. And
yeah. They always had pinto ponies.
Yep.
Yeah. They had a couple of big guys that were fun to have in front of you on the line playing football.
Oh.
They could move. They can move pretty easily. Some of the other team members.
Yeah. Okay.
But this is not copyrighted.
Okay.
So I don't know what the law reads on that.
We'll see if we can get a copy of it.
Yeah, I didn't even get a copy. In fact, I'm barely mentioned in here.
How did you get this book?
My sister Elma, she left it to her kids, and they didn't care anything about it, so they gave it to me.
Uh-huh.
But they lived in Uncle Parley's house.
Uh-huh.
So.
Okay, we're going to try to go see if we can see the right place.
I'll drive up and show you where it was.
Thank you very much.
The cabin was right out there.
Pretty view of the valley.
Pardon?
Got a pretty view of the valley.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long ago did you have the fire?
Which one?
When all the trees are dead.
Yeah. Spligmas have burned us off 3 times since 1999.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, were the fires accidental or did they set them?
Deliberate. Very deliberate.
Okay, Denton, you said there was one cabin right up here.
Mhm.
And where was it at?
It was right over there.
Okay.
See that pile of trees just on that side? We dozed those over in a pile, but there used to be an apple tree right here on this corner, and it finally died, so we dozed it out, pushed it over there.
And was it moved? It was up here, and they moved it down here.
It was moved from here into town.
Okay.
It used to belong. It used to be. It's been destroyed now, but from where you were at the park today, it would be 2 blocks west, 2 blocks this way, and 1 block south. And that's the corner lot was where it was.
And they really moved. It was a log cabin, and they just picked it up and moved it.
I don't know how they did it, but they did.
They did.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
They moved a whole bunch from Rainbow into Vernal. Rainbow.
Well, that's it.
Years ago.
And
Yeah, they were very.
About 20 of them went to Bonanza.
They were very ingenious. I don't know how they did some of the stuff with horses that they did. There were old threshing machines. Boy, that just.
And then the dams they built and roads they built up in the forest that are just incredible. Think about it.
We're going to get natural gas into Portage finally. And 3-phase power finally.
That sounds good.
Make it easier on our wells.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, that's hard to run well.
Yeah, we've been running them on diesel engines, 500 horsepower engines, and that's gas guzzling or diesel guzzling, and but this country is tough enough. There's hardly anybody that does anything with dry land anymore here.
Yeah.
The weather is just so hot in the summertime and we don't get any rain. Yeah. We've had 1 rainstorm in the last month, and that lasted about 10 minutes.
I had a little one last night for about 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. But
yes, I have the code, and then I messaged them. I said, if they can get back there early,
Denton, do you own any of this canyon, or is this other people?
no, we own a good chunk in North Canyon and this one.
And is this a public access road or?
Yes.
Okay, so you can just go up there, and is there anything else up there that people go up there for, or?
They run sheep up in the top, and they run cattle. So it's just basically pasture ground.
Yeah, just a ranch road.
Pardon?
Yeah, they just use it for farming.
Yep.
Yeah.
we get a lot of deer, and if you drove around town slowly, you'd see deer probably in 4 or 5 different places. That we've taken some trophies off of Lemon Peak there in the last couple of years. About 5 years ago, the biggest buck in the state was taken on our place in Washakie. So it was a 5x6 points. So, but the body was gutted out, was still over 400 pounds.
Wow. It's a big deer.
Yeah.
He was showing me pictures of a mountain lion somebody got up here last night.
Yeah, that was a big one.
A big one.
That was on Lemon Peak.
That's
just the next peak down.
Down there, across the other side.
Pardon?
That's over on that
I
side.
think it's the 2 ridges over.
Yeah. But you can't see a lemon on it till you're looking at it from the east side of it.
Right. So it's just like this one, but it's further that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It really does, from the east of it, look like the end of a lemon.
Oh.
And I just hope that we can instill this in our kids and let them know how important it is to have heritage. I didn't realize how much it meant until I served the mission in the South, and to see the old Shiloh church and still bloodstains on the floor and all of that stuff. And they had a reenactment of it every year, and it's just outside of Corinth, Mississippi, and that just tears your heart out to watch it.
Yeah.
So that sparked an interest in me for history.